can!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Right, on the show today, India readies to take on Australia in just a few days from now. So how can mind games be far behind? But has Australia gone a little too far this time? Another episode of the handshake gate with Aussies taking a bit of a cheap shot. US President Donald Trump is writing himself all over the FIFA World Cup scheduled next year, now threatening that Boston could be removed from hosting the games. Is his level of involvement in sports in America taking another drastic turn? And Italy erupts with rage even as the peace plan rollout in political corridors continue. Massive protests turn violent as Italy face Israel in the World Cup qualifier. But first, Sports 360. Starting with cricket, Pakistan beat South Africa by 93 runs to take a 1-0 lead in the two-match series. Chasing 277 in the final innings, South Africa lost 8 wickets on the fourth day. Noman Ali, who took 6 in the first innings, added 4 more wickets to bundle out the Proteas for 183. The second test will begin on the 20th of October in Rawalpindi. On to football and the World Cup qualifiers. England have secured their spot for the FIFA World Cup with a 5-0 win over Latvia. Anthony Gordon opened the scoring. Captain Harry Kane scored a brace. England won 6 out of their 6 games to finish top in Group K. Portuguese captain Cristiano Ronaldo has extended his lead over long-time rival Lionel Messi. The Al Nassr star scored twice in Portugal's 2-2 draw against Hungary. With this, CR7 has now scored 41 goals in World Cup qualifiers. Behind him are Carlos Ruiz with 39 goals and Lionel Messi with 36. In Asian Cup qualifiers, India's hopes for the Asian Cup qualification ended after suffering a 1-2 defeat to Singapore at home. Lalianzuala Changte opened the scoring for India in the 14th minute. Singapore then scored 2 goals to crush India's dreams. For the first time since 2019, India has failed to qualify for the Asian Cup. And summing it up with hockey, India and Pakistan played out a 3-3 draw at the Sultan of Johor Cup. India were initially trailing 2-0 in the match. Arijit Singh brought India back with a penalty stroke. Sufyan Khan scored the equalizer for Pakistan. Players from both teams were spotted exchanging high fives during the game. India versus Australia is just some days away. It's been a busy cricketing calendar for both these sides, yet Australia seems to be just able to find the time to get into the mind games and start taunting their opposition even before they've arrived in their country. So what have they dished out to India this time? How far have they taken the act, and what more to expect? Now, when you are going up against Australia in any format, you've got to realize a few things by now. One, you're going up against a system. It's not just a team. When it's you versus Australia, it's not only the players on the field, it's a whole army that's behind and against you. The ground staff, media, fans, everybody chime in. 2, be very prepared to be welcomed by taunts, jeers, below-the-belt jibes and all things other than cricketing challenges. Let's admit Aussies have surely mastered one thing while dominating their opposition on the field with their skill set, and that's the art of sledging. Something they surely did not miss a chance at indulging in days before the limited over series against India begins. So what has happened now? An anchor with an Australian sports streaming service, while interviewing some of the top Australian cricketers, both male and female, brought up the topic of India. And in a taunting question directed towards the Indian men's cricket team about them, suggested that the best way to overcome India would be to target their weakness, which was clearly their unwillingness to shake hands. And the response from the Australians was instant, bordering on the brash, even rude gestures that they were hoping would pass off as a bit of a joke. Now, obviously, the initial assumption is that this is linked to the whole Asia Cup episode where India did not shake hands with their counterparts, Pakistan, after the games, leading to an uproar and some ugly scenes during all the matches that took place between these two countries during that entire tournament right up to the final. Now, to set it straight here, this was a stand India took, keeping in mind the sentiment of a country that was enraged post what happened in Pahalgam, and how the Pakistan government has not taken a stand against terrorism and terror acts. Sometimes certain gestures are purely beyond the realm of the game, but this taunt was also possibly alluding to what transpired between India and England recently during a test series. When England captain Ben Stokes approached the Indian batters at that point, Ravindra Jadeja and Washington Sundar to call it a draw and pack their bags, despite them nearing their hundreds, and India, of course, refusing to shake hands on principle. That the day was not done just yet, and these batters deserved the milestones. They were not being petty, but the Aussie media here and the players surely seemed to be. Glenn Maxwell trying the fist in the palm, Grace Harris placing a thumb on her nose and wiggling the other fingers, fashioning a childish taunt, Sophie Molineux doing the Italian salute, which translates to basically the up yours gesture, then even using the middle fingers. Mitchell Marsh doing the finger in the cup, ice cup gesture, and it goes on. Now, the video, unfortunately, was deleted, and no guesses why. It triggered a massive response, but not before, of course, the pictures went viral. One particular user brought up sandpaper gate to suggest that the Aussies do not know how to play fair, so the least they can do is play nice. But they have been far from that. It doesn't fit into their psyche. They will pride themselves on giving it off with bat and ball and their words and gestures. They will take great pride in accosting an Indian captain at an airport, but turn and call the cricketer out here for being a bully. He was just stopping the media from recording his kids. And in actuality, they fit that description to the T themselves. If their media has the gumption to do this, that you can see on your screens, then just imagine the players. But even sledging, taunts and jibes need some class, Australia. There has simply got to be a difference between smart intimidation and brainless trolling. Australia, though, has managed to match the jibes off the pitch with their performance on it in the past. But if they do not in the series that's coming up, then rest assured, India will love to have the last laugh without even trying to put them down with any such antics. The United States is gearing up to co-host the biggest sporting event in its history, the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But instead of the buzz being about stadiums, ticketing, or the spectacle itself, it's about Donald Trump trying to throw around his weight. The US president has now threatened to pull the World Cup games out of Boston, blaming it on a terrible mayor doing a terrible job. Is Trump turning the World Cup into his own political battlefield? On the surface, it might seem reasonable, a head of state showing he's invested, he's involved, he's concerned about security and public order, but scratch deeper and it becomes clear. This isn't about safety, this is about power. Ever since the US won the bid to co-host the 2026 FIFA World Cup, it has become less about football and more about Trump's control over it. From the trophy tours to venue decisions, to his repeated interference in host city planning, Trump's shadow looms larger than the impending tournament itself. And when asked if World Cup matches would really be pulled out of Boston, he didn't hesitate.
We could take them away. I love the people of Boston, and I know the games are sold out, but your mayor is not good.
That one line, we could take them away, thrown about oh so casually and enough to send ripples across the country, because Boston is one of America's great sporting cities, home to champions, dynasties, and a fiercely loyal fan base. The games there are already sold out, as Trump says himself. Yes, the city has witnessed protests, including pro-Palestinian demonstrations, some of which turned violent, injuring 4 police officers. But the World Cup is still months away. And instead of breaking up the tension or finding solutions, Trump's reaction was to threaten to take the World Cup games away. A move that sounds more like a political stunt than a presidential solve. And this isn't the first time he's done this. It's a template Trump wants to follow for every city.
We have a great Washington, D.C. We, as you probably know, we're going into Memphis and we're going into some other cities, and very soon we're going to go into Chicago. It will be safe for the World Cup. If I think it isn't safe, we'll move it into a different city, absolutely.
Now, these kind of decisions normally and logically would lie with FIFA and the US Soccer Federation. Even FIFA's vice president had to step in and respond carefully but clearly.
If I have to react every time a politician makes a statement, whether it's a president or a senator or a congressman or even in my country, quite honestly, or even in Mexico, then I wouldn't be doing my job because I'd be focusing on what these guys say. So the reality is we're focused on the 16 venues and making sure that they're ready to go once you guys come over and cover the matches.
Yes, FIFA surely has its task cut out because look, Trump wants to be the man pulling the strings, at least look like he's the man pulling the strings. This has been Trump's playbook for years, turning sports diplomacy into political theater. From his military salutes at Super Bowl events to delaying the US Open final as everyone waited for his arrival, to even confirming a UFC fight at the White House on his birthday. Trump has blurred the lines separating governance from grandstanding. Sports for him isn't just entertainment, it's a platform to project his influence, his power, and show his sense of control. And now the World Cup, a global sporting event meant to unify, is being sucked into that very same orbit. The irony is almost poetic. As the US prepares to use the 2026 World Cup as a symbol of unity and diversity, the president's comments are dividing the conversation. If the US can't even appear united at home, how can it project unity to the rest of the world? At its heart, this is no longer just about Boston. It's about the balance between sport and state, between leadership and showmanship. If Trump keeps this up, the 2026 World Cup might just go down in history as his own political spectacle and not the celebration of the people and the fans. Tensions, politics and football, three words that should never collide. But once again, they have. Before the World Cup qualifier in Udine, Italy witnessed fiery, chaotic scenes. What began as a peaceful protest quickly erupted into a violent clash. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators took to the streets demanding one thing alone: Israel be boycotted from the tournament. Despite peace plans and diplomatic promises, the world remains divided, and football once again is caught in the crossfire. Our next report tells you how the game that's meant to unite has turned into a battlefield of ideologies.
Football and its fans, a love story unlike any other. The emotion, the color, the roar of the crowd. The game has always symbolized passion, pride, and unity. But lately, that beautiful bond has been tested. Especially when it comes to matches involving Israel. After similar outrage in Norway, Italy became the latest flashpoint. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters marched through Udine, demanding that Israel be shown a red card. A banner that proves where Israel stands. Europe is demanding Israel be snubbed from football events. But that right to protest quickly turned into one of violence. As riot police moved in to disperse the crowd, the scene exploded. Tear gas, shields, barricades, and chaos. Udine looked more like a war zone than a football city. Even before the first whistle, football had already lost. Inside the stadium, the protests followed. Fans unveiled political banners, waved flags, and there were chants throughout the match. Israel's players were jeered, their anthem drowned out by slogans. And even after the final whistle, the anger didn't fade. Demonstrators marched deep into the night, calling on FIFA and UEFA to act. The result, Italy 3, Israel 0 meant nothing. The real contest was happening outside the pitch. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a growing, global wave, one that questions Israel's place in international sport amid the Gaza crisis. From Istanbul to Paris, London to Buenos Aires, football arenas are becoming protest grounds. And the timing couldn't be more symbolic. These scenes in Italy came the very same week. US President Donald Trump announced his so-called West Asia Peace Plan, a plan meant to cool tensions, to bring sides closer. But on the streets of Udine, that plan looked like a fantasy, because peace on paper means nothing, when reality is still burning. The Italy-Israel match itself felt like a military operation. Snipers on rooftops, police vehicles escorting the Israeli team, special forces deployed around the stadium. It wasn't a football match, it looked like a war front. And yet, from the comfort of conference halls, officials keep saying football unites.
Well, football's role has to be to support, has to be to unite, has to be to give hope in the region. I realized it here today in my conversations with all the leaders in the world. They all want to contribute, they all see the importance of football to unite, to bring people together.
A noble thought, but in Udine, it united people for a very different reason: to protest against one team, one country. And now, as we edge closer to the 2026 World Cup, these tensions raise tough questions for FIFA. How long can football pretend to exist in isolation, when every match, every anthem, every gesture carries political weight? Because if scenes like what transpired in Italy become the new normal, then the question won't be who wins the World Cup, but who the world allows to play in it.
Time for last serve. Saudi Arabia isn't just entering established sporting ventures, it's creating new ones. The kingdom hosted the world's first ever hydrogen racing event, a spectacle that fuses cutting-edge innovation with adrenaline-pumping speed. It's clean, it's fast, it's futuristic. Take a look at the machines of tomorrow in action today. That wraps it up here on First Sports. I'll of course see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care.